Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Propagandacast. Lehr. This time around, we're looking at Soviet openings, which in fact I stated in the previous, Propagandacast Lehr. Yet apparently some people have been asking, well, Dane, will you be doing the Soviet openings next? And I'm like, yes, I just said so. Oh, well, you didn't say it in Russian, yes? Anyways. We'll be having a look here at Russian openings, the Soviet openings, for the glory of the Soviet Union and Comrade Stalin's mustache. So, let's get moving here. And the initial one we'll be looking at, of course, is one of the standards, probably the Soviet standard, pretty much a pullover from the American standard, which is get a lot of guys out. In this case, get a bunch of conscripts out. And of course, I mean, one thing to immediately note, of course, with the Soviet start, most regular Soviet starts don't require you to build anything. So, for example, you can immediately get the combat engineers out, securing territory for the glory of the socialist peoples. And there we go, the conscripts arrive pretty quickly, and already here again, this is sort of one of the differences. You'll basically have stuff out faster than your fascist opponent. So over there, of course, with this sort of start, you immediately get the ability to just grab more territory than the other bugger. Course is something vital to remember. There we go, another squad of conscripts. Moving ahead there, in this case we're seeing him rushing for the fuel. That of course is something you can do, though not necessarily something you have to do. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And just, keep pouring out conscripts. You can then of course, vary it. Do I get, for example, more Molotovs after the second conscript, the third conscript, the fourth conscript? In between those things you can sort of determine. That also depends more on how aggressive you want to play, how much up in your face of the opponent do you want to get. Usually you get a Molotov the faster you actually expect to get into enemy combat, then you get a Molotov earlier and earlier to sort of get that extra shock effect where all of a sudden something incendiary in a glass bottle flies towards their face. Or as the description rather nicely says, frangible incendiary grenades. Nice little detail there. Not how you usually describe a Molotov, I suppose. Then again, I mean, maybe I'm just walking in the wrong circles of English-speaking people where they're usually referred to as frangible incendiary grenades. Might just be me. But there we go. No Molotovs yet, though. I mean, he's just pushing ahead, grabbing territory again, using it. It's also noting already here he has much more territory than his opponent. And again, depending on how he leverages, he can see envelop his opponent, attack where he wants to with much greater ease. And of course, yes, be careful he doesn't run into any sort of nasties. Though so far, actually, we see here that his opponent, Devem, and this by was from one SNF fight. I'll just grab it from there. But quickly getting into a building here, taking a nice position. That's also something you can actually do with this sort of build, as the soldier, of course, right for a building at a vital juncture and make things a bit more difficult for the fascists. There we go. 4 squads of conscripts, one holding up a building here. That's definitely going to be difficult to dig out simply due to the size, but no, apparently not. Moving up here, and there we go. Molotovs are up, the frangible incendiary grenades. And if it wasn't because it's going to take much more time to say them than Molotov, I mean, I'd probably say it a lot more because I just love the word frangible.
This piece of dirt is ours now.
In fact, word of the day is frangible right now. Frangible, ladies and gentlemen. Quick Molotov against the building, noting again where he throws it, right where the troops are located. I mean, where grenades, Molotovs, all that are thrown, actually determines if there's any damage that's done, because if you're throwing at the other end of the house and there's no one there, it's not going to do anything, so that's important to note. Right, of course, we see rifle grenade here, nicely laid down there because the troops were a bit too close. Again, we are seeing these Colonials, besides trying to grab as much territory, they're also trying to lay in some pressure, using his superior number to sort of quickly gain an advantage here now. In this case, a rifle grenade, though, rather hastily put an end to such streams of domination. Pushing up here. And another Molotov, again sort of denying cover to the opponent. We see here that Devin runs into the fire. His men burning away, horribly, screaming. They're never quite as horrible as the screams of the female snipers. So far, there we go, keeping up the pressure. Of course, you will, of course, with this sort of strategy, be paying a lot in terms of reinforcement. But again, if you can leverage correctly, you can push your opponent back quite a bit, do a lot of damage to them, make things quite unpleasant, deny ground, and overall outmaneuver him. Although so far Korean Army has not opted for that, instead he's opted for some more urban warfare, in which case DevM has been able to sort of hold up quite nicely. This time around though, again, it could have worked against him, all depends on some different factors.
Grenades now available to all conscripts.
That's something to keep in mind. And there you go. I mean, we're seeing anti-tank grenades. Usually it's not uncommon then to basically get every upgrade, so conscripts can fight against every possible thing initially being able to throw at them. Plus, of course, having up a field infirmary is never a bad thing either. So of course, there you go, grabbing more territory, you know, again, shifting away from just fighting an enemy to take away territory from the enemy. And that's sort of just the first 5 minutes here. Could have chosen anyone, just figured I'd go for this one.
Replacements have arrived.
And let's move over to the next opening you could possibly do as the Soviets. And here we are, now with Captain's Price, that discount brand of fish sticks from the Soviet Union. Or Captain S Price. But the other one sounds more fun with a different start. In fact, here we see right away, building up Special Rifle Command. You can pretty much guess where this is going. He's not going for Maxims. This will be more of a focus on the Special Rifle Command start, more specifically the Penal Troops. There we go. With, of course, its own set of, you know, strengths and weaknesses. I mean, that's, you know, all things have, you know, the strengths and weaknesses. A lot of people seem to think, you know, that apparently there should be no weaknesses. I'd argue against that, of course, but still. And of course, for this sort of style, of course, we see that as one immediate weakness, that is, of course, you will be a bit slower out, you won't be grabbing so much territory, and of course, troops will be a bit delayed in some regards, and certainly you won't be having the advantage in terms of raw numbers against your fascist opponent. On the other hand, of course, you will get a unit, for example, when you go for the Penal Trooper, which actually does pretty much, in terms of DPS, twice as much as your conscripts, and pretty much the same with the Grenadiers. So overall, they will be on a one-to-one scale, able to dominate the opponent if used well. Of course, they pretty much possess the same time of armor as the conscripts. I mean, they're not that durable, but again, used well, they can do a lot of damage. And again, that's sort of the bit about them. They do an awful lot of damage there with the semi-automatic SVT-40 rifles. So pretty much for what you... That's something to keep in mind. Commies moving up here. We're seeing him using that one on the far right. Another penal squad on the way. So far everything is quiet. MD-42 up there again. We're not going to look in that much on our German opponent. Again, the focus is the Soviets. With their penal troops. Their Strafniki. Grabbing territory. Looking dashing with their little brown caps. No fungible incendiary grenades. A bit of aggressive movement there with the combat using between counters and MG-42.
Yes?
Moving up there. All quiet so far. He's sort of playing for different angles. But nothing spectacular. And again though, for only 360 manpower, you get something to do pretty much twice the damage of a conscript squad. Plus, of course, the option for flamethrowers, satchel charges, hoorah once they hit Veteran T2, and the tripwire flare mines, of course, they do get a lot of bonuses as they vet up in comparison to most other units.
What do you need?
So we're going to be having the first engagement. Pioneer's going to be running into the penal troops. Immediately stopping them up, sort of. Pioneers coming around to find. In this case, they do actually make it to the house. Getting some conscripts to sort of work up with the penal troops, not a bad idea. Usually people then utilize them to sort of, you know, merge, and there we go, satchel charge. In that case, you can quickly sort out any defensive position, and in this case, we will see one pioneer die in a horrible, horrible manner. Grenadiers versus penal troops over here.
Enemy machine gun.
And even the Grenadiers on heavy cover, they are certainly not doing things as easy as they'd like to. And there we go, the penal troops actually close in. All of a sudden, the Grenadier quickly drops again. They shoot a lot faster than the Grenadiers. And for that matter, conscript, and they can simply do a lot of damage. Note how quickly the Grenadiers actually get down in health, and there we go, wiped out. Bit of a mistake, of course, on the opponent's side, but even then, I mean, they can present a credible threat, although in this case, you should actually get them into heavy cover. Conscripts are quick to move up. Light machine guns up here for these Grenadiers. That's definitely bad news. MD-42 sending up, and there we go. Quickly merging up some conscripts. That way, of course, is one way to keep your penal troops moving, pushing ahead. Conscripts continue to follow up. Quickly suffering a few losses. Conscripts might want to merge again. There we go. And again, note the Grenadiers are simply suffering losses. The Penal Troops are simply able to actually, on a one-to-one basis, decimate the Grenadiers well applied. And of course, with the merge, you can simply keep them going for a much longer time on the battlefield. So in this case, I mean, if you go for something, you do give up, you know, map control, something that can be a bit broader and a bit more durable, for something that, if well applied, can do a lot more damage to your opponent. And in this case, we're seeing here the Captain's Prize is opting for more of those dagger strikes with more impact rather than the broader, blunter strikes with just large forces of conscripts.
Yes?
So, I mean, that's in essence sort of what, overall, I mean, anything can sort of get here from this building basically entails. I mean, Penals, of course, being run in more direct ways. Snipers and even the scout cars basically fall out on that big. I mean, you focus less on just, you know, broader front and ball, but smaller strikes and can do a lot of damage if well applied. And there we go, another satchel charge slightly going to go in. There we go. They probably should get away from that. Yeah, that was a bit of a blunder right there from Captain's Prize, to put it mildly. But still doesn't really change the fact he's able to do a lot with them. And so it causes his opponent a bit of a headache. So right there again, another sort of Soviet opening. In this case, sort of Captain's Prize way of doing it. Of course, you can sort of vary it. You can throw in a scout car, you can get some snipers. But again, the basic gist is, of course, you're more focusing on damaging your opponent. Whoops, my pardon was there. Sincerely, but you know, you're more focusing on delivering more damage to your opponents, and of course following up with sort of more map control or other sorts of maneuver. And of course, I mean, in that case, the trade health is partly, you know, slightly more expensive, but also, I mean, not necessarily that durable. So again, keep that in mind while playing with this. But again, if well utilized, can actually do a lot of damage to your opponent. So that's another opening. We'll be moving over to the next one right now. And here we go, third, and for this episode, final opening under D Bellator. Onwards here, conscripts going up. And in this case, a support weapon company opting instead. Again, you sort of get the, won't be able to grab as much territory early on. In this case, it's getting some conscripts, so it's less delaying than, for example, in the case of Captain's Price. But still, you know, he's not going to be out there taking territory right away. Again, that's slightly part of this sort of build. But instead, of course, we're going to see more heavy weapons, so at the same time, it's actually more durable, because, again, you're getting some larger units, but at the same time, of course, not as much territory. And it's not going to be as swift as you just have full infantry, because these are support weapons, so conscripts will, of course, be more facing the line of fire, and, of course, the support weapons can sort of follow up. Then again, certain support weapons generally are more durable, can stand out to be a bit more on their own compared to the German counterparts. Though, again, generally, you should be a bit careful about that. So there we go, support weapon company up. Looks like he's not getting something from it right away. What could he be getting? What could he be getting? This D Bellator. Apparently some additional conscripts, so not right away we will be seeing anything like this or this. And of course also support weapon company, sort of a bit more combined arms initially, with machine guns, mortars and a field gun. So of course it's also focused on more broader infantry play in some regards. Or at least deeper infantry play as opposed to more proper. Planes popping out here, of course, but nothing out of the ordinary. Conscripts arriving, moving towards the fuel point. Although enough, he's not heading straight for it. He is taking a point before it. I would not expected that. And there we go. You can either get a mortar or a Maxim. In this case, a Maxim would of course be a bit more the usual thing. Pioneers really coming under fire from the combat engineers. Conscripts fighting away without mercy. And there go Pioneers retreating, gaining up hand in the left-hand side. For the time being, we're actually noting a mortar, and of course he's gone for elite troops, getting a Veteran C3 mortar. Though again, less relevant because we're looking at the third opening, but just a fun fact, because currently, I mean, not an awful lot else to say. But now with the Maxim out, of course, he can quickly lock down a single German Grenadier squad, if he fancies that. And of course the Maxim, for example, while not necessarily possessing much firepower, the MG42 on the other hand can shift much more quickly and sort of lock down different parts of an assault. Which of course works out quite nicely in its favour, and there we go, actually following up with a mortar.
What do you have on us?
Grenadier taking up position in the building. With 3 German mortars firing away. Maxim moving up, being carted forwards. while waiting for a mortar, but again, combined arms.
Mortar team reports ready for
But
combat.
combined arms are slightly more durable sides, and again, they do have a larger weapon teams, and thus
ready.
can get out of there much more quickly, and overall have a larger chance of actually getting away. Which is also part of things.
Contact with the enemy!
Strange enough, he's rather splitting things up.
The enemy has taken our
Seems
supply
not too much
sector.
covering up one part of the map, so he's playing a bit aggressively, I think. Then again, not sure what he's actually wanting to cover this Maxim. Seems a bit curious
Sector has been cut off.
for this match in particular. There you go. Mortar out. Pioneers coming in a bit of fire there.
Conscripts under attack!
Man engaging here, Commies versus Grenadiers. Mortar is up, going to bombard away.
Units awaiting orders.
And of course, so mortars also have that fun little thing called precision strike. Not a lot of players use it, at least. Not a lot of the intermediate players, some of the more veteran, but still it's a very powerful ability if utilised properly. Since it allows you to fire one shot very precisely, and I do believe it actually does more damage than a regular strike, but still, it can pretty much allow you to, for example, knock out a mortar or, say, an MG42 with a single strike if you time it carefully. Hell, even a Grenadier squad can be wiped out with a precision strike if you prop it down
Conscripts
correctly.
can now throw Molotovs.
Something to keep in mind. Pioneers advancing up just as the Maxim moves about. Bit poor timing there. But again, quickly sets about. Pioneers quickly shooting, also realising this is bad news for them.
We are bleeding, comrade!
So right here again, not so much, you know,
Brave, comrade!
map control, not so much territorial gain as again the more aggressive conscript start. On the other hand, again, much quicker lockdown, a German assault initially with the Maxim and with a mortar, as an example, which of course has its own benefits.
Done, comrades. The point is ours. Enemy squad has us sighted!
So there you go. Those are initially the sort of three sort of basic openings you can go for. Of course, there are always variations depending on what you actually get from the different buildings. I mean, again, here you could start up with a mortar earlier, more Maxims, more mortars. For example, you get 2 mortars if you fancy that. That'd be no issues with that. And again, with the Special Drive Command, you could get out with Scout Car first, snipers, Penal Troop, then sniper, Penal Troop, Scout Car, sniper, Scout Car, Penal Troop, so on. All these sorts of variations, again, they are basically variations within the theme of sort of, you know, what sort of opening you might conduct, and then of course you can even then combine them if you so fancy. So I hope this has been educational just like the previous one. I hope you've got some ideas, I hope you learned some things. I hope this might have, how should one say, inspired you to sort of try out some new openings, to try some new plays as the Soviets. If you did, that's wonderful. That's in part this, but of course just basically understanding them, even as the Germans, you know, you might stand a better chance, of course, understanding what are the strengths and weaknesses of these openings as you encounter them, which you might as well do. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something from it. If you did, want to subscribe, tell your friends. If not, send a replay in. So post in the comments what would you like to see instead. I mean, I'm going to be making a bunch of these again, one every second day, I hope. And of course I'll be focusing on sort of different topics, sort of more specific topics. I've definitely got a few ideas sort of for the future, depends on if I can get the replays for them I want. So there you go. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers.